Hello everybody! Today we're going to have our cooking lesson where I'm going to teach you to make empanadas, and I am going to have a special guest for our lecture today. It's going to be my sous chef, Isabella.
Hello.
This is Isabella right here, and so I'm going to be giving you the recipe and she's going to do the cooking. So that you can all see that anyone can actually do it. Not that you're a bad chef, you're a really good cook.
I am a bad chef.
All right, so the ingredients that you need. First of all, wash your hands, make sure you wear an apron because that might get a little messy. And what I want you to do is to look at the ingredients, and it's a very, very simple recipe. Everything you should be able to find at the grocery store. And what you're going to have is you need your meat. And the meat that we actually have here is ground beef, which if you're going to be ground beef, try to find one that's good quality. So in Argentina, we have all grass-fed organic cows. So go ahead and find something similar to that. For those of you who do not eat beef, you can replace this with chicken, and the chicken can actually be ground chicken, or it could be chicken breast or thighs that you just chop very, very small into tiny pieces. If those of you who are actually going over Lent and would like to have some Lent empanadas, you can fill them up with a can of tuna instead. So replace that with tuna, and that will be your what was it? And that will be your protein, or anything else that you would like to, that you fancy. If you like turkey, you can do it with ground turkey. So you can use any type of protein that you would like. If you want to make it all greens, you can replace this for kale and spinach, and then you're gonna have to make a little sauce or something to make it a little better. But at this point, we're going to move on to the ones that have meat in them. Another ingredient that you're going to need 1 onion. If you're going to use 1 pound of meat, then you're going to have 1 onion, or you can do 2 small ones, and one can be red and one can be yellow, for instance. Then you're going to need peppers. And peppers, what I typically do is I use half of a different color of pepper, and so you use 1 pepper. And so it could be half a red and half a yellow, or half an orange, or half a green, whatever you like best. Or it could be just one of all the same color. We're gonna need hard-boiled eggs, and so we are going to be using 3 eggs. And then we're going to use some minced garlic. So we use so much garlic in this house that we started actually buying this thing, shame on me. But that's the best type of, or the quickest way that you can actually do it, or you just take a couple of garlic cloves and mince them very, very small. And last but certainly not least, some olives. Then we're going to use olive oil, we're going to use salt and pepper, and sometimes I just like to zhuzh it up a little bit with a little bit of wine. So I'll go over that in the cooking process. Okay, these are the spices and things that we're going to use for our empanada. So typical salt and pepper. We're going to use a lot of cumin, some ground allspice. This Spanish pimenton, this one, is actually the same as chili powder or smoked paprika, whatever you like best. Nothing too spicy. And then for those of you who actually like to add some zhuzh in there and some extra little spice, ground cayenne pepper. All right, so now Isabella is going to start with this. So we're going to get some olive oil onto a heavy pan. All right, so we're going to put a little bit in there. And then that should be enough, yeah. So then, Isabella, I want you to grab some of the spices that we're going to be using, especially the cumin. So and get them, and again, everything is to taste. So we're going to be adding them to the pan, and we're going to heat them up and get them all nice, toasty and smoky. And then at that point, only at that point, we're going to be adding the onions to it to start sweating. Okay, so now that we have our spices in there, we're going to turn this on and we're going to let it warm up so they can get nice and toasty. Okay, and once they get nice and toasty, we're going to start adding our very finely chopped ingredients, which we already have ready to go in there. The olives are going to be the very last thing to go, okay? And in the meantime, I have my eggs boiling there and getting ready to go. All right, so now that the spices are a little bubbly in there, we're going to start adding things to the pan. Can you see the pan? Yes, you can see the pan. All right.
So first go the onions.
Mm-hmm.
You want to mix them up a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna let them sweat in there. And you're gonna keep them sweating for about 4 or 5 minutes. All right, as you can see, the onions are nice and sweaty and all that. So now we can actually add the garlic. Bloop. And as we are adding the garlic, I'm getting, how are you holding up, Isabella?
Oh, good.
Alrighty. And very soon after you add the garlic, and we have, I forgot to mention that the heat is at medium range, so it will be about between 5 and 7. So now we're going to add all of our peppers. Let's get this. So the peppers get sweaty. The last thing that we're going to add is the meat. Well, not the last thing. Now after this one, after everything is nice and cooked and done, we're going to add the meat, and we don't brown the meat. We just put it in there, let it sweat with the rest of the things, and it's going to cook that way. We do not drain it. Typically, grass-fed organic beef tends to be on the lean side, and I actually got, what did I get? 93%. So basically it has very little fat. You can use up to 85%, and that should still be fine. So you're not gonna need to drain it. Actually, you want that fat and those juices to, yeah, that's funny. You want that fat and those juices to flow and gelatinize, if you will, so that they will hold on to that empanada and make it very, very juicy. So we'll keep going with that. And I'm going to start opening my beef here. So as you can see, once the onions are done and sweat well and all that, we very quickly start assembling the rest of the thing. So now this is going to take a little bit longer to cook, of course. So we're gonna put it right there. I'm gonna break it up. Not like that. Just squish it in. There you go. And we're gonna be cooking it away for a little bit longer. Right? Yes, a little bit longer. So we keep breaking up like that. And so we're gonna see how, see, all of that. And so what you're going to have to do now is, once you broke it up and incorporated it to the rest of the preparation in there. You'll let it simmer, and you can cover it if you want to and all that. And then you let it sit in there until it cooks. All right, and one last thing that we can actually do, I have here a half a glass about of white wine. Actually, I prefer it when it is red wine, but I didn't have any red wine open. So you can do this. You can use white wine, red wine, or if you're using pork for your empanada concoction, if you will, for your protein. You can add beer as well. That's actually really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit there. And of course, it is very important that we ensure that the liquid that you're incorporating is of good quality. It is. I'm gonna drink the rest. There, it's known somewhere in the world. And so you just leave it here. You keep working it out a little bit. Once you have it all in there, you keep that medium heat on, and you cover it, and you let it sit here until the meat is no longer pink. So until everything is cooked through. It should still be juicy, so don't let it dry out. And then once we're done with this, we're going to add the hard-boiled egg, all minced and tiny, and the olives that we haven't incorporated yet. So we get to see now that everything has been cooked through. I added the eggs and the olives in there, and you can see that there's lots of juices in here. See, everything is cooked through and warm and all that. So what you're going to have to do with this is you're going to have to, you can transfer it to a container or you can just leave it here, but you're going to need to take it to the fridge and keep it there until it's completely cold and all of the juices have gelatinized. So everything needs to be hard in here. So typically what I do is I leave it overnight, and so the next morning I have my stuffing ready to go. But that's it, you're done with your stuffing. Now we'll talk about how to make the rest of the things that you need to make for the empanadas, which is you're going to have to make the dough, and you're going to have to make the empanada discs, and then we're going to stuff them, cook them, and eat them. One thing that's very important is
making sure it's not poisonous.
You have to make sure that you try your food. So grab a tiny little spoon and make sure that if you have a friend that's cooking with you or some helper or an Isabella like I have here, just make sure that everyone has a spoon and can actually taste. We have to make sure that the quality is good. That's good. And if you have a Diego in the house, you have to make sure that you share as well, and that you're like, that's not the right size spoon. You can have this one, tiny one. All right, try a little bit. There you go. What do you think? Is Diego approved? Diego approved. All good then. We're ready to put it in the, no! We're ready to put it in the fridge. Okay, now we're going to be doing the, making the dough for the empanadas. And so, Isabella, please turn the front thing on, and you can turn it at pretty high. That's okay, that's good. Okay, so it's very simple. What we need is a stick of butter. So I have 2 half sticks in here. So open it up and put them in there. So what we're going to do is on that hot in there, we're going to start heating it up, melting that butter, and a whole cup of sugar. Oh my gosh, no sugar, no sugar. A whole cup of milk. Can you just put the cup of milk in there? So stick it in. Good job. And then you can stir it up and get it all ready. I'm gonna get this out of your way. So we're gonna melt everything together. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. That's it. So it has some taste to it. And then you let everything melt in there. It's gonna take a couple minutes. Do not let the milk come to a boil. So just make sure that it just melts enough, and so you can warm it up and then turn the heat off and let it rest and sit there until everything gets melted and not overtly hot. So give it a few moments there, let it melt, and then once that's done, we're going to add the flour and we're going to make the dough. See, we're melting things away. We still have a little bit left.
Yum, buttery milk.
Yeah. With salt.
With salt. Salty buttery milk. Yummy.
So we're able to melt everything. So this is ready to go. So what we're going to start doing now is we're going to start adding all-purpose flour. And so we're going to come over and show them what we're doing. What we're going to do now is we're going to put some in there. We're going to stir it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to be incorporating all this flour until it forms the dough. But do it slowly and little by little, because otherwise if you put too much in here, it's going to be a stiff, unbearable thing, and you're gonna have to start all over again. So this is the hard part of the empanada making part. So we make this dough. This is my mother's recipe, and you can you replace it with like puff pastry or something like that? Yeah, absolutely you can, but it's not gonna taste the same. It's not as good. The only thing that I will say is for those of you who are gluten free, do not try this with gluten-free flour. It's not going to work. So I have a little remedy for you. So if you look at this, see, it's starting to take some shape in there. So what we're going to do now, make sure that your countertop is clean and all. We're going to put some flour on the countertop, and we're going to dump our dough in there. You can see that it's still wet and sticky, right? So we're gonna put it in there. Okay, I'm gonna squish it out. We're going to add a little bit more flour, and we're going to start getting that dough together. Okay, there we go, slowly, making sure that you do not overdo it. Slow and steady. Okay, still sticky. See that it's sticking to my hands, so we need to incorporate more flour in there. But as you can see, all the flour that I put on the counter is actually sipping into my dough. See, and now I have a nice looking dough. We're kneading the dough and getting it all ready. And when you have a homogeneous looking dough, see that it's no longer sticking to my hands, we get a little bit more flour all around it. Okay, this still feels a little warm, so we're going to get a little bit of film. We're gonna wrap it with film, and we're gonna take it to the fridge for a minimum of 1 hour so that it cools off and it gets a little stiffer. And then we're going to stretch it and cut it and get the empanadas going as long as the empanada stuffing is ready to go and it's all cooled down and all. And that's it. For those of you who are gluten-free, I said that I had a solution for your dilemma. Do not try to make the dough with gluten-free flour. It's not going to work. I tried it myself a couple times and it's too crumbly. It's not malleable enough that you can actually play with it as if it were like puff pastry or any other type of dough. However, I did find this in the freezer section of the grocery store, and you can actually get gluten-free puff pastry. Just let it thaw and stretch it properly. It should allow, each one of these rolls should allow you for about 4 to 6 empanadas, so you might be able to actually make a dozen empanadas with one of these things. They're a little expensive, but I actually tried them, and it does look good, and is a good alternative to making the dough by yourself, especially because the gluten-free flour is not going to be conducive to a good dough. So after a little bit of chilling, this is ready to go. As you can see, it's a little bit harder than before. I'm actually going to come over and show you here. See, it should still be malleable, you see? So now what we're going to do is we're going to put some flour on the countertop, and we're going to start stretching and cutting. So the way that I actually like to do it is I like to cut the dough in half because it's easier. So the more you play with it, the harder it's going to get, and the more effort you're going to have to do to be able to stretch it out. And so it's better if you actually cut it in halves and do it in different parts. And because I have my helper here, Isabella will be cutting half of it and I'll be cutting the other half. What I'm using as my mold to cut it is this is one of those glass containers with capacity for 2 cups, right? You see?
Tupperware.
It's a Pyrex, so it can go in the oven and all that. No, not that we're going to use that, but yeah, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to have our knife, and so we're going to cut around our circles, and so that we'll have a nice circle to get our empanada stuffing inside. So now that you have all your discs, you can put them in the fridge until your stuffing is ready to go, or you can start stuffing your empanadas right away. The important thing is I have a tiny little piece of dough that's left over here. Keep it with the rest of your empanadas so that if anything breaks, so your dough breaks as you're stuffing things, you can actually use this to patch and repair the little holes if any of them happen.
Also, it's okay if they're lopsided, just so you know, because all of mine are lopsided.
They don't have to be perfect.
Exactly.
As long as they're made with love, right?
Yeah.
Hey, good job. Team effort. So now that they see, the stuffing is cold, and see all the juices have gotten all together, and so it's easier to actually lift up and all that. We're getting everything, and what you're going to need is a little bit of water, and this is for a tip here. You're gonna need a spoon, and get a pan, like a baking sheet, lined with parchment paper, and depending on how many you're going to have, because this is probably going to make around 2 dozen empanadas. We're only 3 at the house, and so typically we will make like a dozen, and that will be more than enough for us. So the other dozen you can actually freeze it, and so you can line a baking sheet with a little bit of film, and so then you're going to put them all together in here and take them to the freezer, and then once they freeze you can bag them and they're ready to go in the oven. So now Isabella and I are going to start stuffing our empanadas, and I'm going to show you how to close them and get them all pretty looking, etc. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a disc. Okay, and we're going to get the important thing is that we stuff them properly. So we're going to get like about this much, spoonful, and tuck it in. Get it all nice and stuffy in there. Let me see if I can actually get you closer, there, maybe. And so then what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of water, and we're gonna get half of our empanada in there. All right, and then we're gonna bring it in. We're gonna close it and pinch, right? As I'm closing, I'm pinching, and I'm closing it, and I'm pinching, closing and pinching, closing and pinching, and so you pinch all the way to the end of your empanada, right? This is not done yet. What I need to do now, and I'm going to show you here one by one, you pinch and fold. See? Pinch and fold. Pinch and fold. Pinch and fold. And fold. Pinch and fold. Pinch and fold. Pinch and fold. Pinch and fold. This is like Play-Doh, so all you have to do, unless you're Diego, who has PTSD from kindergarten when they forced him allegedly to play with Play-Doh, you should be able to do this, right? And there's your empanada. See? Cute. Stop it. Go away. Okay, so you put it there in the pan. I'm gonna give you another example. Another thing that you can do is you can see, there's Isabella's empanada.
It's sort of small, but that's fine.
Actually, it looks really good. See? Don't be afraid to try it and to play with it. Again, remember that you have a little bit of Play-Doh of dough left from when you did the discs. So you should be able to get your holes, if there are any holes that you make, filled up and all repaired. Make sure that your empanada is well stuffed. No one likes empty empanadas. Empty empanadas are skimpy empanadas. No one likes that. Okay? So we're gonna push and press and close them really, really well in there. Okay? So that's one way that you can close it. When we make our chicken empanadas, we put them up like that on the ground, and then we close them like this, and so you make like a little chicky, kind of like a dumpling, if you will. So that's another way that you can close them. All right, we're gonna eat these ones tonight, because otherwise if I put this in the freezer I will confuse them for my chicken empanadas. Another way that you can close it is you can take a fork and press on the sides of the empanada right all the way to the end, and so that will seal them, and it will also make sure that you're actually getting them right. So I actually put wax paper in between my discs so that they're not gonna be sticking to each other. Okay, I'm gonna show you once more how to do this. I'm losing stuffing on the way. Just make sure that it's well stuffed. Again, otherwise your people will go hungry, and I don't want people going hungry. Okay, that's not what we do. Okay, so once again, we close our empanadas, so push, push, push. And once you have them all sealed up, then you make your little turny. So here we go. I'm gonna just show you that. Press and turn, press and turn, press.
Bend and snap.
Bend and snap. There you go. Press and turn, press and turn, press and turn, press and turn, and just like that, you're turning each side of it. And that's how you do it. Okay, and there's your empanada. So now you can take it in there. And there you go. Okay? And so you keep going with the rest of the pile until the pile is completely done.
Now you have to preheat your oven to 400 degrees and then give your lovely empanadas a little egg wash. Just paint them. Not too much, but also not so little that they're still dry.
And if you have any leftover discs, do not throw your dough away. You can always stuff them with something else. Like for instance, Diego is playing here.
He's making monstrosity.
No, he's making ham and cheese empanadas. So
that is not how you make ham and cheese
well,
empanadas.
he wants to be creative. Just let him be. See? There.
That's not the typical way to do it, but
it's okay.
You know.
He's happy. Now that the oven is up to 400 degrees, we are going to take the empanadas and put them on the bottom rack for 15 minutes, and then we're going to move them to the top rack for another 15 minutes. Put them straight, baby. Not that way, the other way, but that's okay.
Well, too late now.
All right, and now we're going to get the timer for 15 minutes. Alrighty, so now the first 15 minutes are over, and so we're going to take things out of here and move the bottom rack to the top, on the top to the bottom. I'm gonna set up the timer again for another 15 minutes. And that's it. Second 15 minutes are over. When we take them out,
ooh, yummy!
And on the bottom, see how they look.
And the monstrosities.
Are really nice.
One of them isn't even an empanada. That's just a pepper.
No, that's okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to let them rest just for a few minutes. And in the meantime, what we can start with is a nice pairing for the empanadas. It's a good Argentinian Malbec. So we're going to open this up. And it's going. Well, I hope you enjoy your empanadas. Now it's time to taste your food. Cheers.
If you're not 21 or older, enjoy your empanadas with a nice glass of orange juice. Drinks responsibly, kiddos.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Enjoy. I hope you like them.